What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shuggy from Shook Earth Media, and today we're talking about The Walking Dead yet again. Season 11, Episode 11, 1111, magic number. This is another great episode. So we're hot off the heels off of two pretty good episodes, and then another pretty good episode. So part two's shaping up to be pretty good, man. I'm really digging the Commonwealth storyline. We have a pretty decent script in today's episode, and we got Michael Cudlitz, Abraham himself, directing this episode, and he's directed several episodes at this point in the Walking Dead universe, and I have to say he's really coming into his own as a director. There's a lot of really cool shots, like sweeping shots, a lot of nice camera moves, a lot of cinematic stuff going on. So the directing is good. It's pretty dang good. I have some qualifications about this storyline, and at the end we'll talk about that, like what does this lead to? Is gonna it could retroactively change my opinion of this episode depending on how certain things play off in the future. But as of this episode, I really enjoy a lot of what's going on here. So basically, this episode, Eugene down very, very bad. He's down atrocious. This girl, we found out the other shoe dropped with the whole fake Stephanie thing. I confused last episode which one was the fake Stephanie. This is the fake Stephanie. The real Stephanie is the one who was taken hostage, a person named Max, who is Pamela's secretary. I'm a little bit like, what's the purpose of this? Why do we do the switcheroo in the future? So we'll see how it plays off. Maybe it'll have payoff down the line. We'll get back to that at the end of the episode, though. But I do like, this interaction we have here. And then, it's getting a little too hot and heavy for fake Stephanie over here. And she's like, nah, bruh, you're way too in your feels, bruh. And then that's it. And the Princess has a big part in this episode. And like the comic book, I didn't really care for Princess at first, when she first showed up in the comic as well, and in the show. But, she kind of growing on me, and some of the funny stuff with her pays off well. So, Princess is growing on me, and that's to be expected. That's how I felt about her in the comics, so I suppose, have expected that to happen. But yeah, he's supposed to meet her on an ice cream date, and then he's there, like, all night, and he's still holding the cones at the end, and it melts in his hand. I'm like, bruh, what are you doing? And then, this is where the mystery starts off, and he goes to her apartment. Somebody leaves the apartment, and he goes inside. Now, this part I'm not really sure about, so a lot of the mystery hinges around this guy who left the apartment building. But after you already know what happened, like, what does he do? What was he doing in here? That's not really ever explained to a certain degree, but we'll get back to that. But this shot right here, where we're just slowly panning through the apartment, and you hear some noises, you're wondering what's going on. This is the kind of the stuff I was referring to when I was talking about Michael Cudlitz as a director. I really like this long, slow shot, and he does a couple of these, like, extended camera moves in this episode, and there's good blocking and stuff going on, so I'm liking the camera work in this episode. It's a step up from what we've been getting. They've kind of fallen into a lot of, pretty standard cinematography, and that's fine, but what I really kind of miss that atmospheric, dramatic camera work we used to get. So we're getting a bit of that in this episode, and I enjoy it, and Michael Cudlitz is killing it. So that's all there is to it. Now here's the B plot of this episode. We got Connie and Kelly, and they're dealing with their job as the newspaper journalists, which is what Connie used to do. So we're seeing her ask more questions than people are comfortable with her asking. And I enjoyed the dynamic, and I think it's going to lead to trouble for her down the line, and that's going to be an interesting storyline. But of course, the Commonwealth, it's a control economy, as I made a video about the fact it's not really a free place, and part of that is that this journalist outlet is not really entirely independent, and this is Connie's boss here, she explicitly states that she wants Connie to paraphrase Pamela's press releases. So I like this dynamic here, and I like how aggressive Connie is in this episode, and just playing the truth seeker in this episode, and she's even like kind of sticking up for the guy who took the lady hostage last episode, which I find interesting. Clearly that guy was not in the right, but she's curious about what it is that led him to that point. Which, I would have thought she would have asked some questions of Princess or Yumiko, because they would know. But maybe she doesn't know about that. Maybe she already does. I don't know. But yeah, and then we got Eugene investigating. So this episode, it's a lot of investigating going on, and I like it. One of my favorite episodes of Fear last year was the episode with John Dory solving a murder, and we get something similar to that here, and I like it. I like kind of merging the genres, having episodes with different conflicts. We don't have many zombies in this episode, which I think is actually a strength. Some of the best episodes aren't always zombie focused. So yeah, we got Connie investigating the guy in the hospital, and then we got a wellness check on Stephanie, and Stephanie's not there. And this is another great shot, choreographed by Michael Cudlitz, I'm assuming. So this guy looks really messed up. The skull looks like it's falling off. I don't know. I don't know if that's attached clearly. Well, we got a kill there, and then it pans over to this guy. We follow him, and then now we got them in the carriage. So I again like this camera work here. It's really cool cinematic stuff. So I appreciate it. But we got, a C plot here, which also has something to do with investigating, and we're getting a bit more into Lance and what he does for the Commonwealth. He deals with outside groups. He's kind of the go-to negotiator for the Commonwealth, and they're going to this place that makes poppy for the hospital. So they grow poppy to make opium to use as painkillers. So that's interesting, and the fact that the Commonwealth can't grow it there. And I'm wondering if they have a massive trade network, if they know lots of different groups. If here's the thing. So Lance found out about Alexandria. He went there. He asked them to join them. Why doesn't this group want to join them? Do they want to stay independent? Does Lance not want to bring them into the Commonwealth? Maybe they aren't allowed to produce poppy in the Commonwealth, but they use poppy in the Commonwealth. So, and they kind of hint that this is like slightly off the books or something, that they're not a part of the Commonwealth. But that can't be the case, because we got the military here. We got the hospitals are aware that there's opium coming in and that it's being used. So I'm a little curious about that. So, but I do like, we got this guy's kind of an asshole, and they go fishing together, and we don't get to see a lot of the investigating part. We kind of just get to see the outcome in terms of what Carol finds out. I feel like maybe there's a scene that was cut out, but maybe I suppose we didn't need it, because we already got so much investigating in this episode. But that was one scene I was like, I kind of wanted to see that, but it's not a huge thing. So Connie and Kelly have to go on this ride along, and that's where the zombie killing is happening, and that's all great. And then we got Princess Eugene, very down bad at this point. He's drinking a lot, and we got Princess coming in with a plate. It's one of my favorite parts of this episode is when she's like, I made lasagna, and then he opens it up. It's an empty plate. And then she's like, oh yeah, I did that because you have to let me in if I have food. So I really enjoyed that particular element there. So there was this like board thing that he's got. It feels a bit like a cliche at this point, with all the different wires and string. Maybe I'm just like kind of sick of seeing it in various shows. Like, it looks good on camera, but just in practice, it's kind of silly to me. I don't like, how helpful is it really to just have all these strings attaching various things. I mean, I get having stuff up on a board to look at while you're thinking about it and just piecing things together, but this is just like, it's such a mess. So it just feels like something that's in a movie, but it's not like a real thing. Eugene is definitely the type of guy who would, be methodical about things. So he would have a system for investigating. I dropped something, but this was a bit much to me, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit. It just feels a little silly, and all of a sudden, apparently Eugene is good at drawing. He has pictures of people that he drew, presumably, because I don't think he has a sketch artist off screen or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, this to me, like, it shows Eugene's obsession and all that, and that's great. But the board thing is a bit much to me. So we got him drinking, he's pissing, and I wonder if public urination is illegal in the Commonwealth or not. So yeah, these are the questions running through my mind while I'm watching. But he happens to run into this guy who was coming out of the apartment, and we'll just go. It's spoilers, so we'll just go into the end. I don't know what was he doing, because Stephanie was in the room packing up. And that's another thing, is I'm not so sure they really should have given up all that information early. Now, I already knew about the fake Stephanie thing, so that it wasn't a surprise to me. But for maybe people weren't supposed to know that, or it's supposed to be a surprise at the end, I don't know if it really made sense to give away the mystery at the beginning. But I don't know. But we have this guy coming out of the apartment, and what was he doing there, though? Because clearly she's already on her way out, she's packing her stuff up, and, what took her so long to get out of the apartment? Because she clearly, had already made her decision about, I don't want to do this mission anymore, this guy's a little too nuts, and wouldn't it be in her best interest to not just disappear, but maybe leave some sign or something that Eugene would get the hint, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, because she just disappeared, and anybody would be like, okay, there's no explanation, we gotta look into it, is this person okay? But so what was he doing in the apartment? Why was he leaving there? The only thing I can think of is that he shows up, they talk about how she's like, okay, I'm leaving. What was he doing? He's a spy of some kind, but why did he have to go to the apartment, So, yeah, that's just my thing. It's like, what was he doing there? But, I like the mystery setup, and we're trying to figure out how things connect. You can see these are the drawings that I was referring to. So, yeah, I mean, I like this dynamic, and we got the flashback scenes, the piecing things together. Feels like a procedural. It's nice to do the genre flip, so I like it. And we got this fishing scene, and Carol finds out the truth about how the guy is stealing money from the people, and that's why they're revolting. Now, here's a part I didn't really get it, man. So they're fighting zombies. These are trained soldiers, and yet they're making them look very incompetent. They're not prepared for doing all the killing. There's a guy who got hurt somehow, and he's limping. I'm like, how did he get hit, though? Did he trip and fall? Did he get bit? Because if he got bit, it's like he's got the armor on so that they don't get bit. They should be well trained, have experience killing zombies. Our people with no military training have killed all those zombies in one go. You remember the shot with Michonne where she's just 360. I mean, Michonne's a special case, but at the same time, we saw her kill 3 times as many zombies as that in one go. So I feel like this is just the scene, the obligatory zombie scene that they put in the episode just to have a zombie scene in it. But I'm not really sure what led to them, being injured and struggling with the situation. And then we got Mercer with the blood-soaked thing. There's a nice splitting skull. Let's see if we can get it here, because it was cool. But, like, again, it just makes the soldiers look very incompetent, man. Because this is, like, exactly what they're trained for. This is what they do. They kill zombies, and that's why they're dressed the way they are. You know, it's not riot gear. They're dressed this way so that they don't have to get bit as often, and they have the goggles on so that they don't get infected by blood coming in their eyes, like what happened to Gabriel. So they should have no issue killing zombies, and you know, I just don't know about it. But I really like this head split. It's epic, dude. So the scene that I just played, there's a lot of great camera moves, camera cuts, and again, Michael Cudlitz killing it. Just killing it. So, yeah, and then Mercer's all messed up. You see his back at one point, and he's blood-soaked on the back as well. And I'm like, how did the blood get on the back, too? But this is just me, like, over-analyzing everything like I usually do. But that's what this channel is for. We do the nitpicking here. We pick it the nits, dude. That's just how we do. But yeah, I really like this interaction here where he's basically straight up tells her, like, oh, you know the truth's never going to come out about what you're asking about, because she's supposed to be writing this fluff piece about the military, when really the piece, if she told the truth of what happened here, they wouldn't necessarily look all that great. I guess they didn't have any casualties, but dude, well, no, there's somebody injured. That's a casualty, right? So it's not a good look for the military. Like, oh yeah, there's like 20 zombies and they almost got overrun. Like, dude, come on. But I do love this interaction between these two. I feel like some bad stuff is gonna happen to her here. You know, she's not doing what the survival instinct for her should be, which is good, and that's why we like her. But it's gonna come back to her in the end. So she's asking about the guy, like, what are his charges? The guy who was you know, threatening, who took somebody hostage last week, and she's asking, like, where is he? What is he charged with? What led to him doing that? And Mercer's pretty much just like, you know, the truth's never going to come out about this. Like, don't even ask. So I love this scene. And it's showing a different side of Mercer. And we're getting into a bit deeper with things than we did in the comic book. We're getting into some of the bureaucracy and some of the shadiness of the Commonwealth in a more defined way, and I enjoy it. But yeah, based on like my video where the Commonwealth is not a free society, I knew for a fact that this newspaper is going to be a propaganda outlet, and that it's not going to be independently run, or even if it was, the government would definitely be threatening people who stepped out of line. So I don't think that it's going to last very long for Connie. That's your prediction right now. But yeah, I like this scene here. We have a nice, it's a little scene, but they're talking about their feelings and stuff. But it's a down scene, and it's well written, so it works. And then they're breaking into this guy's apartment, which I enjoy. And Eugene talks Princess into doing it, even though she doesn't want to. And that's great. And then this is Carol revealing the truth about the guy stealing money, and that's cool. But that's just, again, I almost would have liked to see a bit more of that. But, you know, we already have so many investigations in this episode, but maybe she came across some evidence of the beatings or saw something happen or something, but we just kind of get it in dialogue, which is fine. You know, I'm not saying it's bad. I just, like, that's one part of the episode where it's like, we could have seen a little bit more of that. But, you know, this episode's so chock full of good stuff, it's kind of hard to, you know, really slight it for that. And they find a box full of guns, and Lance says later that he's a full citizen, he's allowed to have guns like that. Hey, that's one plus for freedom in the Commonwealth. I mean, dude, if there's a zombie apocalypse and you have a society where you're not allowed to have guns, dude, especially in America where we're allowed to have guns anyway, it's like, bro, don't tread on me, bro. That's all I gotta say. So I like that. But anyways, they get exposed here. they see that it's raining all of a sudden, and then the guy comes back from his run. It's a little convenient, but it works. And then somebody saw them breaking into the apartment, and there's soldiers there waiting for them. And I like that. It's the karma aspect. And bringing Princess in, they brought Princess into this scene, in this episode in general, so that Eugene goes along with what the Lance offer in the prison, which you'll see later. We'll get back to that later. But this is Mercer coming to the hospital and seeing that the guy was moved without his authorization. So, I don't know what that's implying. If he's losing some sort of power, he's very upset about it. I want to see if I can get him punching a hole in the wall. But, I don't know what that means. Like, is there a power struggle going on? Like, who's trying to take control away from him? Why is it that decision was made? Because Mercer is a celebrity. There it is. That's an impressive punch right there. But yeah, so what is it that this is leading to is what I'm curious about. So I'm curious about that. We got another prison scene, and basically Lance comes in and says, okay, we have this document. It's an affidavit or whatever. That's like, oh, you're paranoid, and we're not going to press charges if you just admit that you were paranoid because you lost your girlfriend or whatever. And I feel like Princess is in this episode because if she wasn't here, if there wasn't other implications of what Eugene did, if there wasn't the guilt, the worry about putting somebody else in danger, I feel like Eugene wouldn't have signed that, or he would have pushed back on it more. But we have her in this scene. He doesn't want to get her in trouble, so he signs it. So I think that was a smart move. And of course, we need to give Eugene someone to interact with. And, I like Princess in this episode. And here, Princess is like, okay, dude, maybe she just broke up with you and you were wrong this whole time. Almost like her taking Lance's side or saying that at least it's a possibility. And I like that dynamic as well. And, ultimately she's right at the end. Because she was a spy this whole time. But, it's a good scene. Some good performances, good directing. So we're just going to skip ahead here. And we got this scene where Connie and Kelly are talking about she did end up writing the fluff piece. There's a close-up of it earlier, but I'm not going to try to get it. But yeah, she wrote the fluff piece, and they're talking about how, like, you did the right thing because you did your job. Ultimately, that's a good thing, and we're not going to be here forever, so don't worry about it. So Kelly's trying to reassure her, and Connie is not really on board with it. And then they get a knock at the door, or not a knock at the door, somebody flips a light switch or something. I'm not sure what that is either. Like, the light was flickering, and then all of a sudden there's a list of names under the door that includes the guy who was the hostage taker guy that Princess beat up in previous episodes. And it's a list of names with him at the end. So I don't know what this is exactly. Maybe it's people that have gone missing from the Commonwealth. Maybe it's a list of the rebels. Maybe it's a list of suspected rebels. Who knows? We'll find out. But I like, there's a lot of, good threads going through this episode that are going to lead to other storylines. And then we got Eugene breaking into this supposed plumber place. And, I like this scene too. And dude, Josh McDermott right here as Eugene. In this scene, he brings his A game. Some of the best acting he's done in the show. But yeah, Eugene down extremely bad, the worst of the worst. Of course, Stephanie is there, and this is where they do spy operations. That's where this plumber thing. Now, one point I forgot to mention earlier. When we're investigating, we see a flashback of Eugene staking out this plumber place, and he's like, oh, there's a guy at the head of everything. There's this mystery man who's the leader of this. He's in charge here. And you see the silhouette of Lance. I knew right away that was Lance. I mean, we've seen him in this episode. We're very familiar with how Lance looks. He's got the hair slicked back. He's really easy to pick out. I don't know if that was supposed to be a secret or something that was supposed to surprise us. If it is, it kind of failed in my opinion. Like they kind of gave away too much by showing the silhouette. I was like, oh, that's Lance. You know, it wasn't a question in my mind. It was, yes, that's Lance. And ultimately, this ending was predictable to me because I already knew about the fake Stephanie switcheroo thing, and you know, I kind of knew it was getting to this point. So, you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to be surprised, but I think most of the spoiling the surprise came earlier because they really heavily telegraphed a lot of what happens here. So, yeah, it was somewhat predictable, but I really loved this scene with Lance and Eugene. Like, Eugene has a straight up breakdown, and Lance is just like, he just tells him the truth. He admits it. Eugene's like, you lied to me, you used her to get to me, and Lance is like, yeah. And because Lance knows, like, it's not going to make him look bad to his own people that he lied to this outside group, you know, to get them in their good graces. I mean, ultimately, he makes a lot of sense in this scene. Lance does. Like, you should be thankful that we're here, and yeah, it's just a really excellent scene. Great acting by Josh here. And the guy who plays Lance as well, whose name I actually don't know at this point, but he's very good in this. They're both great in this scene. And the power dynamic. And the directing, again, subtlety in the directing, where they are on the stairs is symbolic of the subtext of the scene. So, you know, Lance is up high, and Eugene, he takes steps down and up based on if he's moving forward in the conversation, feels that he's got a good hit in or a good point, and then he takes a step back when he realizes that he's the one being, you know, silly. And Lance takes steps down closer, and then he puts his hand on his shoulder as a kind of a patronizing thing. That's really great, subtle directing. So that's staging, and when you're a director, that's the kind of thing you zero in on. How do we bring the subtext into the performances here? That's what you're thinking about, because the script is already written, but when the words that they say, how you say it, and where you are when you say it, and your physicality of the performance is like half of the battle when it comes. That's why directing is such an important job on a set. So Michael Cudlitz bringing a lot to this episode, is what I'm saying. So he's really good with the directing, man, and I hope he comes back again because he's good. And even his episode of World Beyond, like, I didn't like the story, but his directing was good. And he had this cool puppet scene and everything in it. We're getting a little distracted. But yeah, this scene where the truth is revealed is pretty dang good. And I did ultimately find it predictable, and that's why I said I had some misgivings about it. And my also thing is, like, beyond this episode and putting Eugene through this, what does this do for the story going forward? Why did we have to do this whole convoluted thing where it wasn't the real Stephanie? Like, other than this episode, what does that what effect does that have on the storyline? You know, he meets up with the real Stephanie at the end here, and he burns his science fiction novel. I was like, no, Eugene, don't do it. Don't do it, Eugene. Bro, she's literally right behind you. She wants to read it too, man. She's gonna let you hit it, man, I swear. But he's down so bad, extremely bad, down atrocious. He's just in his feels, man. Look at him. He's drunk as hell. He's got a lot of things on his mind, man. But yeah, what's the point of this? If it's really like, oh, this is the real Stephanie, and now they're gonna have a relationship, it's like, well, we went through this whole thing for what, though? You know, like, what is ultimately gonna be the purpose? I don't know if they should just do the same relationship from the comic, which Eugene and Stephanie end up together in the comic, but there wasn't this whole switcheroo thing. I feel like if we have the fake Stephanie and Eugene thinks he's in a relationship with her, and then we have the real one, and then he actually is in a relationship with the real one, it just feels like an extra step to ending up at the same place. And I don't really know what the point is beyond this episode. So that's what I'm asking. And, you know, this is not a criticism per se. It is just pointing out that we need some follow-up here. We need something more to really give a good reason for this. And maybe they have it. Maybe they have it. I'm not going to say that they don't. So that's my review of this episode, guys. Pretty dang good one. We got Eugene down atrocious, extremely bad, and you got to feel bad for her. But it's some great acting, great directing. It's just a good episode, man. Good script. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. So I'm fully on board with this right now. Part 1, I didn't really care for very much of the final season. Part 2, so far, killing it, dude. It's pretty dang good. I'm excited about where we're going. So I'm really curious about next week. We're getting more stuff with Maggie. We're going to see what her beef is with the Commonwealth and deal with that whole situation. So I'm looking forward to next week too. But keep it locked on Sugar Earth Media if you want to see more Walking Dead content. Hit that sub button, hit the like if you like, and I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. And thanks for watching this long. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.